This is Bill Brady, One United Body, doing a recording for the Leadership Training School. This recording is about the Son of God, specifically Galatians 2:20. Let me show you Galatians 2:20. This is Paul writing this. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Paul is giving testimony that he's come to a place in his journey where he has been crucified with Christ. Now, we're not talking about a physical crucifixion. It's not a crucifixion of the body. It's a crucifixion of the soul, of the old soul. So Paul says that he has been crucified with Christ. It's his old soul, his mind, will, and emotions that has been crucified. He says that he no longer lives. So he's talking about the old soul, but Christ lives in him. So he knows that Christ lives in him. And the life which he now lives in the flesh. By flesh, he doesn't mean the sin nature. He means this kind of flesh, the flesh of man as opposed to the flesh of fish or birds or beef or whatever, which I now live in the flesh. I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Other passages say, by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Now, you can believe that you have been crucified with Christ, that your old soul has been crucified with Christ, but it hasn't happened until you actually get a witness of the Spirit letting you know that it actually has happened. Up until that point, it's something that you're believing for, something that Godhead is doing in your life progressively, getting you to that place. And then the moment comes that you actually have been crucified. Up until that point, you're believing to be crucified, believing for your old soul to be crucified. When that point comes, then you actually have been crucified with Christ. Your old soul has been crucified, and now it's your new soul that's living. And you can now say, like Paul, that I have been crucified with Christ. Up until that point is I'm believing to be crucified with Christ. Or if you're quoting this verse, you're actually quoting something that you're believing for, rather than something that is a fact that has already happened. But there will come a certain time in your journey that it will actually happen, and you'll have a testimony of the Spirit that this has happened. And then you'll also no longer have the old thoughts that you had in your old soul. You'll no longer have the old emotions that you had in your old soul. And you'll no longer make the old choices of the will that you used to make in your old soul. So that'll also be a manifestation showing that this actually has happened, because you won't be living the old life in your thoughts, in your emotions, or in your choices of your will. Up until that point, it's something you're believing for. When it actually has happened, you've got a testimony of it, and you also have a testimony by the Spirit, by God the Spirit, telling you that it's happened. And then you also have manifestation in your life that you're no longer manifesting the old. You're only manifesting the new as far as your soul is concerned. And without all three, without the testimony of the Spirit and the actual change of your thinking and your emotions and your choices, it hasn't happened yet. When you actually have these things, then it has happened. Now, I live by faith in the Son of God. I prefer faith by the faith of the Son of God. Either way, it's actually, I suppose, faith in the Son of God is good too. This is not about Christ, which is kingship. Christ gets you crucified. So you're crucified with Christ. That's part of kingship. But the actual living of this new life, your new soul, that is a Son of God part of your journey, not a kingship or Christ part of your journey. It's a Son of God part of your journey. Yeshua did this for you by the Son of God. He loved you and gave himself for you as the Son of God. He died for you as the Christ on the cross. So he died both as, he was crucified as Christ, and he gave himself for you as the Son of God. So he gave himself as a sacrifice for you as the Son of God. The Son of God is priestly. Priestly has to do with sacrifice, living sacrifice, or actual physical sacrifice of your physical body, which is what Yeshua did. So Son of God has to do with priestly. So it has to do with the sacrifice, and also has to do with the priest doing the sacrifice. It's not all that Son of God has to do with, but my point is that you actually have been crucified with Christ. This is part of your kingship. And now you live with respect to Yeshua as the Son of God. You're functioning in your faith. It's his faith, it's your faith together. It's a oneness of faith. Okay, so I wanted you to get a sense of this. Again, up until a certain point, you're believing for this to happen. After that point, it has happened, and you've got a testimony of it by the Spirit of God that has happened in you. But then you also have an experience that is, your old thoughts are not breaking in any longer. Your old feelings are not breaking in any longer. Your old emotions are not breaking in. You're not making choices of your will that are old choices any longer. It's all new. It's new thoughts, it's new emotions, and it's new decisions of your will that are manifesting in your life. That is evidence that you actually have been crucified with Christ. I see three parts to it. There's a before this time, there's a at this time, when it actually happens. I mean, at that point, the nails are nailed into you. Again, this is your soul, not your body. And then there's a from then on that you actually live. And this living has to do with living as the Son of God. You are the Son of God, and he's the Son of God. Yeshua is the Son of God. You're believing in him as the Son of God, but you're also yourself, you are the Son of God also. That's what's going on here. Okay.